What's up guys, my name is Kyle Scott. Today I'm going to bring you some practical tips on making your chords sound cleaner. Because we've all been there. We're trying to learn some chords. We want to be able to bring our daughter down the aisle. We want to be able to play for our kids at bedtime. We want to be able to play in the church band. But our chords just aren't sounding good, no matter how we work at them. So today I'm going to give you some techniques that I've taught many students to improve your chords to get cleaner, more accurate, more beautiful sounds. The first 5 reasons are things that you can do today, techniques you can improve the sound on today. Now reason number 6, that's a little harder to deal with, but you'll have to wait and see what reason number 6 is. Let's start with reason number 1 that your chords do not sound very good, and that is finger placement. You might not know that when you're playing your chords, you're really supposed to be trying to get towards the front of these frets, okay? Fret obviously being the space here, in case you didn't know. You want your fingers to be as close as possible to the front edge of the fret, all right? Now, if you drift back, you'll hear the difference, right? I'm gonna play a single note. My guitar in particular is pretty sensitive on the B string, so watch what happens when I play this note here. If I play, that's a D, right? That is a B string, this note is a D. If I play it at the front of the fret, it's nice and clean. There's a little G string for you. But if I drift towards the back of the fret, instantly, right? I'm not pressing any different. I'm pressing the same amount of firmness as I was before. Watch as I drift back. I'm still inside the fret. I'm still getting the note. You see what happens. When you drift back towards the back side of the fret, you're going to get more buzzing. It's the way that the strings are angled in all that sort of scientific type of stuff, which you don't really need to know. All you need to know is that the front edge of the fret is where you're most likely to get a clean sound. Some chords, it's not going to be very possible to play all your strings in the front because you won't be able to reach, or because it's going to be more of a stretch and your fingers aren't ready for it. And so that brings me to reason number 2, which is not enough pressure. I mean, this is the most obvious one, right? But it needs to be said that if you don't press hard enough, you're not going to get a note. You've got to put some pressure on there. I know it hurts. I know your fingers are bleeding and your heart is bleeding inside. But over time, your fingers will build strength. They'll build up the calluses, and you won't have to work so hard on getting enough pressure to make the sounds that you want. But for now, you're going to have to practice putting enough pressure down. Not too much pressure, because you might overdo it. In some guitars, if you put too much pressure, you could actually alter the sound of the note, which you don't want. You just want enough to get a clean chord. If you don't do that, nothing. All right, all I get are the open strings. These are muted. So if I press a little more on these 2 strings on my G chord, I get them clean. So pressure, 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 pressure. If your fingers are hurting, just take a break and come back later. I've got plenty more to help you with on your chords, but before I do, let me tell you about my ultimate guitar guide. There's a link in the description to this video. It's free, and it's going to give you some of my guitar buying recommendations, some chords you may not have heard before, some beautiful chords, my favorite strumming technique, my favorite strumming exercise, my favorite finger picking exercise, and it's very organized, nice and neat for you. Go get that. It's free. You need it. Okay, here's reason number 3 your chords don't sound very good. Reason number 3 is that your fingers are touching the strings they're not supposed to touch. So let's take a simple E major chord. All right, we only want these fingers to touch the strings they're designed to play. Now, if I drop my ring finger and I don't get enough curve here, right, you can see, sorry about that, you can see the curve I'm out here, okay? If I drop my hand like this and they touch the strings, uh-oh. What's going to happen there is I'm going to get muted string underneath on that G string. Okay, right now I have, when I curve them nicely, when I go a little bit too flat, you get, uh-oh, G string is gone, and it's because my ring finger is touching that G string underneath. So you've got to really work on curving the fingers. Curve and get enough to where they're not touching strings they're not supposed to touch. Now, this brings me to reason number 4, which is the thumb and wrist position of your hand really matter. All right, because if you're struggling to get the curve that you need here on this E chord, it may be the position of your thumb and or your wrist. Now, I've practiced a lot and I don't have very large hands, but my guitar's got a skinny little neck, which I like for smaller hands. But if I'm struggling to get enough curve in a chord, I know that I need to drop my thumb, because you know what happens when you drop the thumb. Watch this. When I drop my thumb back, watch this here. My thumb comes back. Look what happens to my fingers. They're allowed more room to curve. Okay, I hope you can see that. Hope it's not blurry or anything. But when I drop my thumb down, my fingers are able to curve more. Now, you can drop too far where you're not going to get enough power to play your chords, especially on bar chords. If you drop too far, you start to pull your hand away from the neck. You can hopefully see that. Their hand starts to pull away from the neck there, and that doesn't work either. So you've got to find that happy medium where your thumb is sort of in the middle of the back of your neck. You see this here? My thumb is here. Sometimes if I'm playing thumb chords, I'll wrap it over the top like this. Okay? But mostly it's going to be here, especially on bar chords, it's going to be there. Kind of acting a little bit like a capo. Doesn't that look kind of like a capo? Right, if I squeeze there. You don't want to squeeze too hard because you'll get tense, you'll hurt your wrist. But you want to squeeze enough and in the right spot. It's like golfing, right? If you've ever tried to golf, which I have tried and failed, they say it's not like the huge guys that can hit really far. It's the guys with the good technique, the guys that know how to swing. It's not about pure power, and it's the same with guitar. You don't just need to have a bodybuilder's arm to play clean chords, but you need to know where to put your fingers. So to get more curvature, drop the thumb to get more curve, and raise it really to get more oomph, because then you can squeeze the guitar. But there's that happy medium spot in the back where you can get most of your chords comfortably played with the thumb right there. Experiment with it and you'll find your sweet spot on different chords. You'll see that if I play a D over F sharp, you know, also a lot of chords I have my thumb hanging over because I like my thumb to touch the E string, so that if I strum like say an A chord, my thumb can touch that string and then it gets muted. So you'll see my thumb over the top a lot just to touch things or to play, you know, sort of thumb bass chords. In this case, the thumb is playing that note. But for most chords, my thumb is back behind. Unless I need it, or if I'm riffing and stuff, it can be up top, but when I get to the higher stuff, you know, I have to kind of drop it down. So experiment with the placement of your thumb and you'll find that you'll get more curve as necessary. Reason number 5, it's maybe not your left hand that's the problem. It could actually be your strumming hand. Or if you're a lefty guitarist, then you know what I mean. It's your strumming hands that's the issue. When your chord is clean, your fingers are curved, you're not touching extra strings, you're giving enough pressure, you're towards the front of the frets, but you're still not getting a good chord. It could be your right hand is playing strings that it's not supposed to play. I teach a lot of students, and when they play the D chord, it's really hard to get used to not playing the low E and A string. Right? That just doesn't sound very good. Now, a D chord is nice and clean if you don't play these two. But when you're playing G, C, D, right? It just sounds like a mess of notes, and it's not what anyone wants to hear. So we need to practice hitting the strings that matter, that are applicable to the chord. And in the case of the D, it's usually not these two. Sometimes you can play the A over D, the D over A, but usually you don't want the E string. It makes things muddy. So practice being accurate with your pick. And also, when you're strumming chords, make sure that what you're strumming, you give the right attention to the right strings. I know some people that put all their attention on the low strings and they play. Right? And it's just like, I'm not hearing the breadth of your instrument. And some people are much more prone to. And then we're not getting the low end. So try to be balanced with your strums. Try to be nice and even with your strumming to get all the strings that you want. And a lot of this takes listening with your ear, not just playing what the teacher told you, not just playing what's on the paper, but listening. Does this actually sound good? Right? Because if that's not what you want, maybe you need to work on getting that pick to hit all the strings. Except for, of course, on chords that don't want all the strings, like the D chord. Reason number 6, and this is the biggest bummer if this is you, but it's your guitar. Right? The guitar plays a huge part in the sound of what you're doing and in the comfortability and the fun of playing. And so if you've checked all these boxes, you know your fingers are curved. If you're not playing any dead strings and they're not touching strings they don't need, if you're towards the front of the frets and you're still not getting a good sound, it could be your instrument, right? The action plays a huge role. That's the distance from the string to the fretboard. Okay, if your guitar's old or warped or new, it could be purchased new, but it just hasn't been set up yet, you need to take it to a technician who can fix that for you and make sure it's very playable and comfortable to your hand, to what you need to be able to play on it. And so, yeah, it might have intonation issues. Again, a technician will help with that. If you're trying to play stuff and you know you're doing all the right stuff, but it's still not right, take your guitar to a tech and they will make it sing. If it's a good tech, hopefully it's somebody that knows what they're doing. That one's the big bummer because you can't fix it today and you're gonna have to pay a little money to fix it, but it's worth it. If you have a guitar that's easy to play, life is good, real good. And I should also mention that changing your strings, if your action looks pretty decent and it doesn't look too far away, just changing to new strings can feel so good. So don't neglect that. And if you're having trouble getting clean chords, you might want to go with a lighter gauge. Maybe I like to use Elixir lights, maybe like a 12 gauge or even 11. If that's if you want to go super light. Now you're going to get less volume with light strings, but they're going to be easier to play and easier to press down on. So if you're struggling with pressing on your chords, try lighter strings. So if your chords are buzzing or feeling muted or sounding bad, it doesn't mean you're a bad guitar player. There's just a couple little things that you need to tweak about how you're playing. So you saw all that I talked about. Round the strings. Don't let them go flat and touch other strings. Put your thumb and wrist in the right spot. Experiment with that a little bit. Make sure your fingers are as close to the front of the frets as you can on any given chord. These things should help a lot. I hope that you found this video very helpful for you and you were able to learn something from it. Please leave a comment below if you did learn something. I want to hear what you learned. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this. Download my ultimate guitar guide. So much good stuff in there. And I look forward to seeing you on my next video.